Hello everyone, welcome back to our new video, and today we are going to discuss a very interesting concept of Python, which are data types. We are all going to see what are data types and how do they behave or interact when applied to some basic operators such as multiplication, division, addition and subtraction. So data types can simply be defined as the classification or the categorization of data items. So it can represent the kind of value that tells us what operation can be performed on a particular data. And as we all discussed in the previous video, we talk about built-in function and where we especially talk about on the objects. So as we said, Python is an object-oriented programming language, so everything is same as an object. So data types are actually classes, and we are all going to see here. Let's enter in the console. So we first start by introducing integers, which are numbers without a decimal point. Let's say we enter 1. So it returns 1 as 1, which is an integer without a decimal. Let's say also 2. Here you see that 2 is an integer. And what are float? The second data type that you see here are float. So what are float? Float can be defined as floating point numbers, that is numbers with decimal points. Let's see in the console, like we write 2.0, and so here we see that 2.0 is a float since it has a decimal. Let's try with another number 1.0. 1.0 is also a float. The next are strings. Here strings can be defined like anything that is enclosed by a single or double quote. You see here, let's say for example we write Clement. Here Python has recognized. So here is the definition of strings. So strings are simply anything. You can also see like we write to anything, we write to and enclose it by double or single quote. So we see that here 2 is also a string. Now given the fact that we can define this given the fact that we know how to define these variables, what if we want to check? Now Python has provided us, as we earlier said in the previous video, Python has provided us with a method or a built-in function known as type, which help us to determine the type of our variable. Let's say x equals to we will talk here with the first data type, which is integers. X equals to 1. Now we will use our type method or built-in function to see the type of 1. So we pass 1, we pass x as parameter. We which has a value of 1. So here we see that x is an integer. So similarly, we can do the same thing with the float. Let's say y is equals to 1.0. Now the type of y, here, since here we define 1.0, which is a float, as we said. Now here we see that we use the type method to check whether really the 1.0 is a float. We see that here 1.0 is a float. Now the next here that we are going to check is string. We use the same string that we use up here, declare in a variable. Let's say z is equals to Clement. Now we use the built-in function type and pass z as parameter to see. Here we see that z is a string. So now that we can define variables and check their type, the question that follows is what can we do with them. And now initially, as we said, we can data types are simply classification or categorization of data items. And now we are going to see how do they behave when applied to some basic operators, which are multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. Now let's say we start by the addition of two integers. We always follow this order: integers, floats, and strings. Let's say x is equals to 10. Y is equals to 16. Now x plus y will be equals to 26. Similarly, if we do the same thing with float, we say x is equals to 10.0, y is equals to 16.0. Now x plus y will return 26, which is a float. Similarly, we can also do the same. No, what if first we try to add an integer with a float? We define the same x. We define x is equals to 10 and y is equals to 16.0. and now x plus y will be equals to 26.0. if you see the type, as we said, type of x plus y. So here we see that the type of x plus y is a float. So additions work on float and integers, but it returns float. So it converts the integer into a float. Now, what if we perform the addition operation on strings? Let's define x is equals to we use the same 10 and y is equals to the string 16. Now x plus y, let's say z. Not to use z is equals to x plus y, or x plus y. Now what is z? If you print z, you see that z is equals to 1.1016. So well, here we have stuck together x and y, which is known in Python as concatenation, and concatenation is a very powerful tool in Python when dealing with string or even in programming. So we consider the plus operation with integers and float. Here we consider the integer operation with integers, only integers. Let's try the integer operation on the addition operation on integers and float, and see. We use 10 as an integer, y is equals to no, y is equals to 16. No, I wanted to perform the addition operation on two strings of integers, and because here we have tried the addition operation on two strings of integers. Now we are going to try the addition operation of two strings of integers and float. That is, x is equals to, we take the string of integer 10, and y is equals to the string of float 16.0. Now x plus y will be equals to the same thing. So we see that the addition operation on two strings is simply the concatenation, that is the joining up of two objects, two or more objects. Now what if we try to perform the addition operation on a string of integers and an integer? That is, x is equals to the string of integer 10, let's say we use the same example, and y is equals to 16, which is an integer, not a string of integer, because we said that a string is anything enclosed in quotes. Now z is equals to x plus y. What will be written here? So here we see an error message saying we cannot concatenate a string and an integer object. So Python in this instance want to like use the plus operation as concatenation, but due to the fact that it does not have two strings, it returns an error. So we simply see that in Python we cannot perform the addition operation on a string and an integer. The addition operation works either on two integers or on strings within strings, or only within floats, integers. So let's now look at the minus operation. First, considering with integers, the minus operation with integers. Let's say x is equals to 10. We use the same 10 and 16.0 and 16, and y is equals to 16. So z will be equals to x let's say now y minus x, and we print z. Let's say we return z. Here you see that 16 minus 10 is effectively 6. 16 minus 10 is effectively 6. Now what if we perform the minus operation on strings and integers? X is equals to the string 10. Now y is equals to, let's say, 16 integer. It can also be a float. Now z, the third variable, will take in y minus x. Z we take in y minus x. So you see that here Python give us back a traceback, which is an error, saying that we cannot perform the minus operation on a string of integer and an integer. Let's say, what if we use the minus operation on two strings of integers? You define the same x equals to a string of 10, y equals to the string of 16. Now z will be equals to the subtraction of the two strings. Z is equals to y minus x. We see again another error that Python has give here. The error says that you cannot perform any subtraction operation on two strings, but here we see that we can perform on additions. We can perform the addition of two strings, but now when you come down here, we see that Python gives back an error saying that we cannot perform the subtraction of two strings, which is effectively true. Python does not understand what we are trying to do. So the only operation that we can perform on strings is addition, which is the concatenation, joining up, and this one works the same thing on multiplication and division. It works the same thing on multiplication and division. Now the next operation that we are going to see here is multiplication. Let's see, x is equals to 10, y is equals to 16. Now x times y will give us 160. So you see how we can perform the multiplication operation on two integers. Let's test with floats. X is equals to float and integers are the same. X equals to 10 and y is equals to 16.0. Now x times y will give us 160. And what if you see the type, which is a float? Effectively here we pass in x times y as parameter. We see that the multiplication operation on two integers, that is on two variable, that is integers and float, will return float. So Python here convert the integer into a float when operated on the multiplication. Now here it functions all on the same thing on division. Function the same thing on division. So today in summary we saw three data types, which is addition, three data types, which is integers, float and strings, and we saw different operations that we can perform within them. So thank you. We will end here for today. Don't forget to subscribe and like.